Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Community Force webinar. As most of you all already know, my name is Mehreen Mirza, and I will be facilitating today's session uh, and also answering questions that you may have during the Q&A break. So please do not hesitate in asking any of the questions throughout the session because not just the Q&A break, while Christine is explaining things on the topic, I will be answering the questions in the background. Okay. Because we want to keep the session as interactive and as helpful as we can. Okay. Now, as mentioned earlier, we have with us our amazing Christine Smith, who will be a trainer for today and will walk us through all of the key areas under today's topic. Now, before we get started, and while others are still joining, I'd like to show you a few key features to keep you to help you and make the most of today's webinar. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a panel with an orange arrow. You can use this arrow to expand or collapse the panel. This panel also has the questions option. So whenever you wish to ask a question, please type it in the question area and click on send or enter. We'll do our best to answer your questions during the session itself, but if we happen to miss any of your questions, we'll get back to you via email after the webinar. Also, a copy of today's webinar is present as a PDF copy under handouts. Please click on the handouts on the title, as you can see on the right-hand side, to download it. The handouts also include individual help guides, knowledge-based articles to all of the areas that we're covering today. And for a smoother experience, we have placed everyone on mute, also to minimize the background noise. Since most of you have joined, yes, let me come back in here. Okay. Let's get started on the topic. The topic for today is setting up your evaluation process for the one-to-one application process. Now I'll hand over the mic to Christine. All yours, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Maureen, for that fine introduction. So let's go ahead and get started with our webinar. And so to get started, of course, it's going to be covering an overview of how to set up your evaluation process. So this is going to be the setup for the one-to-one application process. And we'll show you how to create your review committees, how to assign applicants to the committees for review. And then we'll also show you how you can use automated scoring to auto score applicants outside of that review process, as well as show you how to create tasks for your review process and what tasks are in our Community Force site. So who's going to benefit from this webinar? Well, this is going to be any of you administrators who are responsible for setting up the review process, creating scorecards if you have a scoring rubric, as well as assigning committee members to the applicants so that they can review them. And today's session is going to be a one-to-one application process. So that's when you have one application with just one funding source that you're awarding the applicants. This is different from a one-to-many. We're predominantly going to be talking about grants users today. However, it is the same process for scholarship users. It's the same processes, it's the same steps, it's the same screens. So it's not going to be anything different. It's just we're just doing it on a grant site because a grant site is usually a one-to-one application where you have one application and you only have one pool of money that you're using to award that one application. You don't have multiple funds that you're needing to show what was applicants were awarded out of what fund. It's just that single one. So the topics we're going to be covering is, first of all, you may have a blind review process where you don't want your reviewers to see the names of the applicants they're reviewing. So we'll show you how to hide questions, how to hide names so that those reviewers on your committees can't see those individuals who they're reviewing. We'll talk about how to create task cards and scoring rubrics, and then how to create the committee and add members to that committee. And then we'll take a quick Q&A break, and that'll be about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the questions that come through. And then after the break, we'll talk about assigning applicants. So you've created your committee. Now, how do you assign the applicants to that committee member and or how to assign the task that the committee member is going to be using to review those applicants? And then we'll talk about Now that you're ready to turn that over to your reviewers, how do you notify them? And then we'll conclude with the automated scoring. What is automated scoring and how do you use that? How can you use that? And then we'll conclude with the final Q&A to cover the final questions that Maureen answered during that second half of the session, and then we'll close the session for the day. So let's go ahead and get started. So of course, the first topic we're going to talk about is hiding applicant name and questions. So when would you want to do that? Well, if you're a scholarship user and you have a blind review process, which means you don't want your reviewers to know the names of the applicants or any identifying features of that applicant, you want them to go in, make their review so it's unbiased, and that way it can be a fair review process and go forward from there. Or maybe you might have a conflict of interest, so you don't want them to know who it is that they're reviewing either. So to hide applicant names, let's go ahead and go to the site. Let me get to the site here. So I am logged in as an administrator. And once you're logged in as the administrator, you do want to select the application form that you're working with. And this hiding of these questions is something that can be done while the applicants are applying, as well as after the application process if you want to do it then as well. Sometimes we do it at before you even go live, but this isn't something that the applicants are being affected by because it's for the reviewers. It's when the reviewers are getting to that review. You want to, of course, do it before you turn it over any applications or give them access, the reviewers access to anything. So how do you do that? So there's a couple different places, a couple different areas that we want to address. So of course I'm here on my site. I am an admin. So this organization name. So whenever reviewers are looking at reports on the Community Force site, they're going to be, of course, if this is a grant site, they're going to be seeing the organization name. Or if it's a scholarship site, they would be seeing the applicant's name, this applicant name here, their first name, their last name, and their email address. So you might want to hide that. So how do you do that? You don't want them to come to the reports. You'd rather them see a number and nothing identifying them because you don't want them to know who it is that they're reviewing. So to hide it from the actual report, you do have to go into the application setting itself. And then under application settings, we're going to go to the general information screen. And then once you get to the general information screen, you're going to scroll to the bottom of that screen. And at towards the end, before you get to the instruction box here, just above that, you're going to see a couple of things that you can turn off and on. So you're going to see over here a show applicant to committee. And so what that does is if it says yes, that means they can see the applicant name, they can see it in the reports. If they see a preview of the application form, they can see the name at the top of that application form. So if you don't want them to see it, then you do want to go ahead and say no to that show applicant to committee, and that will hide that from their reports. Now over here, you're going to see it says show application to committee. So if you were to put this to yes or to no, what that does is it turns it off completely. They wouldn't be able to see anything on the site whatsoever. They wouldn't even be able to get to the review process. So you don't want to turn that off because they can't access it, but you do want to go ahead and make sure that that is turned on. Now, the only time you would maybe want to turn this off is after you're completely done with the review process. You don't need the reviewers to ever see this review again. They don't need to go back in and see how they scored. Then you could come in here, and once you come in here, you could put this to no, and it would turn it off of their dashboard so they would no longer see it. But the show applicant to committee is what you need to select in order to have them not see the applicant name in any reports they're viewing on screen with Community Force. Now that doesn't hide any questions. So if you ask a question first name or a question last name, It doesn't hide those. We're going to show you how to do that here in a minute. This just turns it off so when they're viewing it from the Community Force reporting or they're looking at a preview, it won't see the name, they'll see a number instead. So that's those two key toggles there. Now there's two more toggles that are part of the review process that affects the reviewers and how they see things, as well as even the applicants with the review process. You're going to see a display reviewer task and comments to reviewers. If this says yes, this means that every review task that every reviewer is reviewing will be present on that preview of the application form. So if you have a couple of different, let's say you have a review committee, you have 3 committee members, they're all reviewing a specific applicant. That reviewer, if the other reviewers have reviewed that applicant, they can actually see there'll be a separate section by reviewer name. It'll be the task card with the questions. It'll be a section like you would normally see a section for the applicant form, but then want to have the name of the reviewer and then how they answered those specific questions. If you want your reviewers to see each other's reviews, then you can go ahead and leave this as yes, and then they'll be able to see them. Now over here is one that you may more than likely have turned off. What this does is it's the same thing. If you want this to be a very transparent review process, you want your applicants to see who all of their reviewers were and the names of their reviewers, as well as how the reviewers scored them, then you can actually turn this toggle on right here, and this will allow them to, the applicants, to be able to also see every reviewer and how they answered the questions in the review process. So that's what those two are. So now let's talk about the individual questions. So this, of course, hides the name and the reporting functionalities. However, how do you, if you created in your application form, you've created a field in that application form for organization name or applicant first name, applicant last name, their address. You have certain demographic information that identifies them. How do you hide those questions so the reviewers can't see them? So we're going to go up here to application settings. And then under application settings, we're going to be in sections and questions. And when we get to this first screen here, you're going to see that all of the sections that you have available. So these are the sections that the applicants are seeing. So let's say I have an agency profile or I have an applicant profile and I want this whole entire section to be hidden from the review process. Well, I can do that so that when the reviewers open up this applicant and see the applicant's dashboard, or as they see the applicant's application form, they do a preview, this section won't be present on that form for them. And the way you would do that is go over here on that section, and then on the section you would want to, if this is the entire section, not the individual question, but the entire section, hit the edit icon over here. And then once you open up this section, then you will see an area that says hide from reviewer. If I turn this to yes, and then make sure and I would save it, then what that is when the reviewers get in, they're looking at that section won't even be present. So that's the whole entire section. But let's say you don't want to hide the entire section. Maybe you have a section you want them to see some of the responses, but you don't want them to see all of them, especially the ones that are identifying to them. So to do that, what you would do is, again, let's just go back to sections and questions. I'm just going to go back one here. And then once you're in the sections and questions, click on the actual section. So here's my agency profile. Maybe you have an applicant profile if it's a scholarship site. So I'm going to click in on that section. I don't want to hide the entire section. But once you're in this entire section, you're going to notice over here it says hide from reviewer. So every one of these questions that says yes means that when the reviewers look at this application form, they're going to see the agency profile section, but they wouldn't see these questions that say yes next to them. So how do you get the yes on that? Well, the easiest way to do that is from this screen. You can do multiple at once. And what you would do is just find the questions here and select that question. So I'm going to do this one since it doesn't have a yes. And then I'm going to come up here on the agency email and select that one also so that you can see what happens. So when I run this next step, whatever it says over here, it's going to do the opposite. So this yes is going to change to blank and it would be visible. But then this specific question here is going to put a yes and it will not be visible. So if it says yes, the reviewers will not be able to see it. But that's where you want to use caution as you are selecting, is if you select one that has a yes, you don't want your reviewers to see it, and you run this process, it's going to remove that yes and they're going to start seeing it again. So that's why I'm going ahead and showing you how this works. So once you've selected your questions that you do not want to be visible, or you want to be visible, maybe you're doing the opposite, you go over here to more options and then hit that more options drop down. And then you're going to see here a hide unhide from reviewer. So once I click that, so that was 6 and 7, I'm going to get the message. Am I sure I want to do this? Yes. And now you're going to notice what it did. So it took 6, like I said, it had a yes, it removed the yes, so that's now visible to the reviewers. And then this specific question is no longer visible to them. So it's that simple. So I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to reverse what I did and put it back the way we had it. Hit yes. Okay. And now it reversed it back to the way I had it. So that's all you need to do is select the questions you want to hide, come over here, more options, and then hide, unhide. And that's the individual question, not the section. So you don't have to, if you don't want to do the whole entire section, you can just do the questions within that section. So that's how you would hide and unhide questions. So now let's talk about, we've got the application form set up, we've got everything hidden. We're now ready to start getting our review process set up. So the first step in creating a review process is to create the task cards that the reviewers are going to use to review your applicants. So what's a task card? Well, a task card is kind of, think of it as a separate section in the application form. So of course in the application we have all those individual sections, but the task is a section that's created specifically for reviewers. What is a reviewer? So a reviewer is a reviewer, someone with a reviewer profile, or maybe it's a staffman, an administrator who also needs to review applicants. And as that part of that review process, you need to know, one, who they've reviewed, and two, each review, you have multiple staff members, each review has to have questions answered, and you need to know how each individual staff member answered those. Or even if a staff member is on a review committee, you want them to be able to review applicants as part of the review committee. You need a task card in order to give them the questions, in order to give them a scoring functionality. So only these task cards create a scoring rubric in the background. If you don't have a scoring rubric, that's fine. You still need to create the task to give them the specific questions that you need them to answer. So like even a question such as, did you review this applicant? So in order to give a reviewer an application form that they can see to review, you have to have a task with at least one question. Did you review this applicant? Because the task is what they get assigned. And then that's where the applicant, they open up that task and they see the applicants they're going to review and all the application forms. So even if that's all they're getting is application forms to view, you still have to create a task with just one question. Did you review this applicant? Yes or no? Very simple. So let's go to the site so you can see where you do that and some nice helpful tips on creating task cards. So again, let me just go back here so you can get the trail. Go home, if it'll let me. And I'm going to open up that application form again. And now that I've opened up the application form, I'm going to go to this tab here, Evaluations. And under this Evaluation tab, this is where all the key functionality takes place in regards to the review process. So it's going to be where you set up the task, Once you start reviewing, that reviewers are reviewing, that's where you're going to start seeing the results as well. All of that falls under the evaluation screen. So of course, the first thing, you need to create a task card, because before you can turn over any applications to your reviewers, you have to have a task card. So when I click on this review task setup over here, it's going to be here on this screen. And when you clone an application form, all the task cards from that prior application will clone over, which is what I did with this application form. I cloned my 2024, created my 2025, and it brought over all the tasks that were there. So that's a nice functionality. Now, like I said, it's kind of a separate section. So you have a task, and then within that task, you have questions to provide to those reviewers. So this was a very simple scorecard. These are the questions. See how it's just like kind of like a section within an application form. You have that section. This is your section for reviewers only. And then these are the questions that the reviewers have to answer. And then the specific one, they just have a drop down, and then they have, do you approve of the organization, and then enter any comments. So you can see how basic this one is. Sometimes we have one that just says, did you review this applicant, yes or no? And then that's all you would need to create to give to them. So how do you create these tasks? I've cloned my application. I have some, but maybe one, I want to make an edit. Well, of course, if you want to make an edit to an existing one, you just have to come over here, hit the create edit where we just were. You can add questions exact same way as you add a question in an application form. So if you're wanting to know how to add a question for a reviewer, then that would be under the tasks, and I'll go into a little bit more details here in a minute. But you can just then click on that question, make your edit. You can add questions to that scorecard if you decided, okay, last year's process, we need to get a couple more questions. Or maybe you want to delete some questions. Maybe they're superfluous and you don't need them anymore. Then you can just come over here and hit the delete to remove those questions. But if you need to create a whole new one, how do you do that? Well, there's two toggles over here. I just went back to this view screen here where I'm seeing all these tasks. There's a clone or a create. The create a task is if you want to create a brand new one, you don't have a task that's similar. If you clone it, but you just want to create something fresh, you can just do here, I'll just do test 25. Let's put a 1 in front of that. And then the unique name is just give it this name, and I'm going to give it the same name. And then the order. So why would there be an order with task cards? Well, the order is helpful if you have, maybe you have a review process and you do like a process of an elimination. Maybe you have a level 1 with your review, and in that first level, you go through a review process, and after you get through that review process, then you make an elimination, and then you have those applicants, maybe you have applicants that need to move forward to the next level then. And then you have another level of review. So that would be order 1, order 2, order 3, the order that it happens. Or maybe you want to do a financial review first, and then after your financial review, then you turn it over to your committee. So financial review might be an internal staff review. And then the second one would be you turn it over to your committee members. That would be number 1, and then number 2, the one for your committee members. So that's just what that means. If you don't have anything like that, then the order is just kind of, just put a number in, and then that's the order it will fall within the site. Now there's 2 toggles here that are very important, that are what cause this single task to be visible to you as an admin. So anytime you're running reports, you're looking at status results, you're looking at awarding, and you want to know the task, the display on review reports is what allows you to see it. You actually have the ability to turn it off or on. And then when you're looking at some reports, maybe you're looking at results and you only want to see the results of a specific task. If you turn off all the other tasks, leave one on, then you just see the results for that one task. So that's why you might want to turn them off or on for you. The display to reviewer is what allows the reviewers to be able to see the single task and be able to do the reviews and go in and view that task. So why would you want to turn it off to the reviewers? Well, I'm creating my task right now. Maybe my review committee members, I've already created their user accounts in the administration site. They have accounts and I'm creating my review. I don't want them to go in and start reviewing yet. So I might turn this off until I'm ready to release it to them. And then once I turn it on, then all the reviewers that have been assigned that task, once I get done with all my assignments, I know my assignments are good, I can turn this on and then let my reviewers know it's okay to start reviewing. Otherwise, they may log in and see it. I maybe don't have my assignments done and they start reviewing and I don't want them to do that. So you can turn that off until you're ready to release the task to them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this just so you can see what it looks like. And probably put it way at the end since I chose that large out. Yeah, so here it is here. So here's that new task. So since I did create a task, if I go over here to the score sheet questions, the create edit, where I need to add questions, that would be the next step. I would go create edit. And then of course I don't have any questions. And then I would just start going over here to add questions and create my questions. So that's how you create one from a fresh one that you don't clone. But let's say you have a task that's very similar to the tasks that you have out there. So in my process, I'm a grant user and I don't have separate funding pools, but I do have separate interest areas that I have different review committees. And when I'm looking at my results, I only want to see the scores from those specific committees for those interest areas. So in order to separate scores, anytime you have a group of committee members and you want to see the score just for that group of committee members, you want to create a task for them. Because if you create a task for that specific process, then you can see the score just for that process. So here I have a health review, an education, a basic needs, an arts and culture. Now, scholarship users, if you have a one-to-many, don't get confused. This isn't all your scholarships. This is just committees that are based off of a specific process for grant users. We'll talk about the one-to-many and multiple scholarships in the next training session, so don't confuse that with this. This isn't a separate pool. This is just a committee. I want to see how that committee scored just these specific individuals. So I have a health review, I have an education review, basic needs, arts and culture, and so forth. So maybe I want to create another one. I want to create another committee that I want to see the separate reviews, but the scorecard's exactly the same. I have a basic needs review, and maybe I have a basic needs review too. Well, let's use that as an example. So since it's exactly the same, I can just come here and hit clone a task. And I can clone a task from other applications, not just this application. So maybe I have a task that's in another application form that isn't in this application form that I like. I can actually select this, find that application, and then find that task and clone that over. But since this one's within the same application form, I'm just going to come down here, find this application form. This is 1A 2025 CF Grant Program, not that one. Where'd it go? There it is, CF25 grant program. Okay, and then what's the task? What's the task in this application that I want to clone? So what did I say? Did I say education? We'll do education review. I want to clone that one. So that's the task I'm cloning from. So this task name has to be different. It has to be specific to this task. So I'm just going to put a 1 in front of that so that I know that this is the one I just created. And then also the unique name is like an XML name, like in a question or section that you're creating. It's an XML name that makes this specific task unique to the system. And all the questions would be unique to this specific task. And that's important because we do have a functionality where if a reviewer is reviewing an applicant multiple times in different committees, but it's the same scorecard, you want them to be able to push the questions from one to another, and it'll look at that question name and it'll actually push the task down from one task card to another task card if the questions are unique to that application process, and then it'll just push them down and they don't have to review them again. So I'm just going to hit save and exit. And again, there's those two toggles. So you can see that when you clone, the only difference is you're selecting the application, selecting the task, and then the rest of it's the same with creating. So then we're going to hit save and exit. Once we save and exit, we're here. And then that specific one that I just created, it put it here at the end. If I go to the create edit, then you'll see here that as soon as I get to that create edit, it's going to have all those questions there. So let's talk about some key questions with creating an application task card, a task card for your reviewers. So if you need to pick up a score, this is very important if you're doing a scoring rubric. So here I have my question. This is my message text. This is the header of this specific task card. And then these are the questions they're answering. And I'm telling them that this is worth 0 to 40 points. So the question itself that needs to be a score, when you create that question, it has to be a specific question type. There's two question types you can use to pick up scores. If you do not use these two question types, the system will not pick up a score for that review. So the two types are drop down or numeric question type. Those are the two that the system will add a score into the system. Now, if you use a numeric, then of course the reviewer is typing a number in. But if you're doing a drop down, then you're providing, which is the best practice is to use a drop down and providing the list of scores so that they don't make a mistake. They can just choose one. They don't have a typo when they're entering the number. You're providing those numbers to them. So in drop downs, if I click the question here, in drop downs, here's the question type. You need to enter the numeric result in the values. So here you can see I have a label and I have a value column. When the system is looking at the scoring on a drop-down question, it is looking at the value column. So you have to have, when you create a score, so this is where I'm entering what I'm creating. When you create a score, it has to be numeric. If I was to type in here, it will not pick that up. If it sees a text in a numeric value, it will not add that score. So all of these values have to be a numeric value in this second column over here. Now over here, the left one, that's the label. The label is what the reviewer sees. So maybe you don't want them to see the score, you want them to see a reply. And then select that. And then the system will, in the background, since I have a 41, will put a 41 to that reply that they see. You can put in the label, you can put text, but the value, which is the one over here, you cannot put text into that specific one. And then of course, then you just keep adding them. You hit save and save, or hit the plus signs to keep adding more, and then make sure and save the changes that you've made. But that's how you do drop downs when creating questions for a scoring rubric in a task card. Now it's only the task cards, not sections in an application form. In task cards is when it does that. The other question type that's out there for task cards that's not in creating questions in a section for an applicant, this is just reviewers only, is we have a question type called reviewer approval. And it's just a nice little question type that automatically puts in a reply. You choose the reviewer approval. And then when you choose the reviewer approval, I'm going to back up here so you can see a preview. What it does is, let's see, this is the preview here. The reviewers see it, and they're going to see this: approved, need more information, or not approved. That's the three choices. It's an automatic three choices that the system gives. So then they can select approved, and then you know that they've approved it. Very simple. Or they don't approve or need more information. So that those are the three toggles in this specific. If for that question type, that it automatically creates those for you. You don't have to create the question. Okay. And then the final thing that is in a task card that is very beneficial, if I click in on here, is, whoops, you got to click the create edit to view the questions. A little bit different than looking at it. Okay, so over here you'll have where you can make them required, but you're going to notice I have a column called scoring comment. All of these say no except one. One says yes. So if I click in on all these questions, you're going to see there's a toggle here that says scoring comment. However, it's blurred out. The reason it's blurred out is because you're only allowed one question in your task card to be a scoring comment. And what the scoring comment does is when they're reviewing, when you're looking at the result reports, then in those result reports, there's going to be a column over on the right that says comment, and it will show you how each one of those reviewers answered that comment. So in this scorecard, then, we have all these questions, but then we want to know what's their recommendation? Do they approve of this reviewer? They went through, they scored it, but what's their recommendation? I can quickly, when I'm looking at my results, I can see all the reviews and the names of the applicants that they reviewed. I can quickly click on that scoring comment and see how they answered that specific one. If they said they don't approve, then maybe I might just jump to the next one. So I can get a list of how every reviewer decided. Now, it doesn't have to be this reviewer approval question. It can be any question you have in your application form. So maybe this is site visit. Maybe I want this to be my scoring comment, or maybe I have an actual comment box that's a text box or an essay box that I want the reviewers to give comments. And I want to see how they all commented. I can take any one of my questions and make that the scoring comment, but I can only pick one of these to be that, okay? So how would I do it? So like this funding recommendation right now is the scoring comment. So you'll see right here, there's that little toggle. If I didn't want this to be a scoring comment, I would remove it from here, hit save and exit. And now I can go into any other question. So I'm just going to pick this one here. This is a site visit needed, just for illustrative purposes. And now that box is available, so I can select it and then hit save and exit. And then that would now be that scoring comment question. So that's pretty much what there is in regards to creating task cards. So then after you create your task card, what's the next step? So the next step then is going to be creating the actual committee that's going to be doing the reviews. So how do I create those committees? We're going to go back to the site here. And so here's our reviewer task setup. So you're going to go here to manage committees. So manage committees, again, I've cloned an application form from my 2024, so everything's gonna clone over. That's gonna come over from my prior application process. So of course, if I have different committees from last year, this year's committees could be the same, but if they're different, maybe it's the same committee, but there's different board members. I can actually go in, I can click on the committee name here, and I can do one of two things as soon as it opens here. I can add or remove reviewers as needed, which I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Or I can go out to manage committees and I can click on this edit here and I can change the name. Maybe they don't want the name to be changed. Then I can come here and I can change that name. So you can see if you have got an existing committee, you come in, you can make changes, which will show you how to add committee members. And then I'll show you how to remove one here in a minute, but that's how you can do that. Clicking on the name is where you can remove and add members, and then clicking on the edit next to that name is how you would change the name of the committee. Maybe they don't want to be called the board review committee, they just want to be called review committee or board committee, something like that. But that's what they see as the committee that they're on. And when you look at reports, that's what the name of the committee is going to be. So maybe I don't use it. If I don't want to use this, then I can delete it if I don't need to use it. So maybe I have some here I don't need anymore, then I can just come here and I can hit the delete and delete that committee, and then they'll be gone. They won't be there any longer. But if I want to create a brand new committee, then I can come here to add committee and then create a committee name. And then hit save and exit. And now the next step, I've created the committee name. So my next step is to add the members. So where's this list coming from over here to the left? So this list here on the left is looking at the administration and the new user accounts. And in order for a reviewer to be able to be assigned to a committee, you do have to go first into the administration and create a reviewer profile for them. So the only ones that can be set up for reviews are reviewers and admins. So those are the only ones whose names will show up over here. Now we do have a functionality, especially with grant users, might be something where you have individuals who are already applicants. So they're an applicant on the site. They don't have a reviewer profile. We do have something where you can turn on called dual role, where applicants' names will also show here. I don't recommend scholarship users because this is going to give you a long page of names that you're going to have to filter through to find someone. But with reviewers, you may have individuals who are directors of an organization who are also reviewing your grants. So you might need to have them. Now that's only one way. If they're an applicant, they can be added to this. If they have a reviewer account already on the site and they come and say, hey, I need to be able to apply for a grant, you cannot give a reviewer the ability to create a grant. They have to have a whole new login ID separate from their reviewer profile. You can't have a reviewer be an applicant, but you can have an applicant be a reviewer. And again, that's not something I recommend, but if you have a lot of that with your scenarios and you don't want them to, if they're applicants already and you don't want them to create reviewer accounts, then you don't want to create separate reviewer accounts for them, then you can activate that dual role. And that's something you can ask assistance from Community Force to help you set that up and whether it would be beneficial for you. Okay, so that's dual role. So I don't have dual role, so I'm just looking at administrators and reviewers in this list. And so I have my committee. And so in order to add members to a committee, it's like you would here, I can, let's say I want to add this Danielle. And then I want to add, let's see, you just kind of scroll through the list if you want, or you can also filter. Now, what's nice here is if you're looking at the list and you realize, you know what, I didn't create a reviewer account for a specific reviewer, you don't have to go all the way out to the administration, set up users. There's actually, you can go right here where it says click here. You can click here and fill out this form, and that will, and make sure to create role type reviewer. And then that will create the reviewer account for you so that it's there. And as soon as you hit save and exit, it would be there. And then it'll be here in the drop down list. So you don't have to go all the way out. We have this nice little click here that allows you to create the account from this page, because of course that is something that's going to happen. So then I'm going to select just maybe some reviewers. You can select multiple. So I'm just going to come here and I'm going to select, and then I'm going to hit the control key. Whoops. Oops. Go down. Let's see, I want to find another one here. Hit control. Where's some of my test Community Force ones? There's one. I'll get Maureen. Okay, so you can kind of select all of those and then hit the directional arrow over here. And then that's how you would assign them. So as soon as I've done that, all I need to do then is hit continue. And then those reviewers would be assigned to that review process. So if I go through here, there's my new education review with my new reviewers. Now let's say I put Maureen on the committee and then I realized, you know what, she's not, or Catherine, she's not going to be available. How do I remove her? Just like I showed you a minute ago, we're going to click on the name here. And then once we click on the name, I'm just going to select her on the right side, hit the arrow. She's no longer there, and then hit continue. And then that will remove her from that review. Now, you do not want to remove reviewers if you've made assignments. That's very important. Once you make an assignment, don't come here and remove the reviewers from this listing. You want to go and remove the assignment first, then come here and remove the reviewer from the reviews. So I'm going to stop there and take a quick break and let Maureen answer a few of the questions. Maureen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, we do have quite a few questions. Let's start from the start. Okay. Basic question that I'm sure everyone would have is, do we receive a recording of today's webinar? If they happen to leave early or join late, you will receive a recording of the complete webinar in your inbox tomorrow after 24 hours. All right. So look out for that recording. So there's another question that says, can reviewer names be hidden from the applicant? Well, here's the thing. Reviewer names do not appear to the applicants at all. So applicants do not know about the process that's happening at the back end. So you don't have to worry about hiding any of that information from your applicants. Okay. Now, this question is pretty interesting. If you have questions that are linked, right? You have questions in the application that are linked. There's a question in section A, and then that question is linked in question B. Now, the answer that is given in the first section A, if it is hidden from the reviewers, will it be hidden on section B? Yes, absolutely. So the linked questions in such a case will be hidden. The information will be hidden from your applicants. Okay, about submit notifications. I'll cover that with you, Emiko, later. I'll send you an email. Okay. Now, the question here is, let me put this together. Is there an option to not hide some applicant information from a certain section of reviewers, for example, screeners, while it is left open, closed or hidden from the rest of the reviewers? No. Once your users are set up in the system as a reviewer, and the information is hidden from reviewers, it will be hidden for all reviewers. Ideally, in this case, what we suggest is, if you have the first phase 1 of the review process that is being done by your screeners, right? What you could do is, alternatively, first leave the information open for your screeners for phase 1, get the finalized list from phase 1, and then before you make the assignments to phase 2 of your reviewers, then hide that information and then make the assignments. So that way, certain information can be done in stages. I'll send in a separate email, Emiko, for that one. Okay. This question is also pretty interesting. Can the act of submitting a scorecard, right? I think I'll cover this a little later once we go into that zone, into that topic. But for now, Emiko, I've answered your question. Another few questions is, can we add conditional logic to our scorecards? Unfortunately, no, we cannot add conditional logic to the scorecard because all your scores are getting calculated. Calculation plus conditional logic can complicate things. So ideally, at this point of time, we're just testing. We'll let you know if that can be enabled later, or that will come into our future versions. I think this is from, yes, Christine.
Yeah, I just want to make a clarification on something, because I'm thinking we might be getting our wires crossed on Candace's question on, can you hide the reviewers' names but still allow applicants to see the comments? So if she is talking about in the application settings under general information, so this is where we need clarification from what she's asking here. On this specific toggle, display reviewer task comments to applicants, this will show the reviewer's names if she turns it on.
That specific setting. Okay.
Yes,
right.
this specific setting, the applicants will see the reviewers and the comments of the reviewers in this specific one. There's no way to hide the reviewers' names from those applicants. Now, in the regular review process, of course, they don't see them. But if they were to turn this
Yeah.
toggle on, then they would see the names.
So, okay, Candice. Okay, Candice, you have your answer. Thank you so much, Christine. Always appreciate your expertise in these questions. Okay, so Candice, the best way to do is just not keep that enabled, right? Okay,
Yes, that
thank you
is
so much,
correct.
Christine. Really appreciate your inputs on that one. Okay, that's from my side, Christine. Carla, I'll be answering your questions too. Back to you, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you so much for that, Maureen. I just wanted to clarify because, yeah, they don't normally see them, but if they were to turn that toggle on, that would allow them to. Okay, so now back.
Christine, I
So we
cannot.
have,
Okay.
so we've talked about dual roles. And of course, if that is something you want to have activated, then you will want to contact us and kind of go over it with the team through entering a support ticket and then making sure that it is something that would work well with your functionality. So then now that we've created our tasks and we've created our committees, then the next step in the setup, of course, is to go ahead and start assigning applicants to those committees. We've got our tasks, we've got our committees. Now let's start making our assignments. So how does that functionality work? So I'm going to go out to my site here. And let me just go back out so you can see the path. So here we are on the home screen. And we're going to go to the 2025 grant program, my application form that I'm working in. And I'm going to go to the evaluation screen here. And then from the evaluation screen, it's going to be the next in line, assignments to committees. So under assignments to committees, this is the screen that you would see for the basic assignment screen. And so in this screen, anytime you do an assignment, as soon as you assign an applicant to their very first task, then their status, that applicant status, is going to immediately go to under committee review. So if they're in multiple committees and multiple tasks, the very first one, they're going to be under committee review, and then they'll be at that status going forward until you do the awarding. So up here where it says select status, I usually leave this as all, because I want every status, and this is going to give you submitted forward. It's not going to give you pending submission because we know that those individuals aren't going to be reviewed, but any status moving forward is going to be submitted under committee review. I don't have to think, is this, I just put all. That way I don't have to think, did they get put in another task? Did they not get put in another task? I don't remember. I'm just going to say, give me all my statuses, because I know it's going to give them everybody. Now, if you're doing different levels, that's where the status detail is going to come into play. So maybe you've declined them in level 1. And so you've created a status detail qualified for level 2. Then you can put that status detail on your applicants in the manage application screen. Then when you come here, you can actually filter them and give me just the ones that are assigned for review, or something that, whatever that status is that helps you know who's in what level. Then you can say, okay, give me only those applicants approved for level 2. And then pull that status details and it'll only give you those applicants. Now, in the review process, the review is per task. So each task, you can do an assignment. And so then when I start displaying applicants, if I do the unassigned, assigned, and all, it's only going to give me the applicants that have been assigned or not assigned to this specific task. Everything's by task. So in my scenario, I have that education review, and I have my education task. So I have my education task name. I'm going to do my education review. So I only want my applicants that are have an interest area of education. So I'm going to say education review. That's the task I created for this review process. So this is the task name. What's the task that they're going to be using to review these applicants? And then down here, if I want, I can do a custom filter. Otherwise, I can remove the filters But to create a custom filter, let me just remove this one here, exit. Ignore what I'm doing here right now. Yes, okay. So if I want, I can add a custom filter or choose not to. If I don't choose a custom filter, then I can just get all my applicants. I'm not filtering anything. I can, like, maybe if this is just a committee review, they get everybody, I can just do that, display applicants, and then I get all 36 of my submitted applicants. However, with this scenario, this is my education review. So I only want the applicants that have an interest area in education. So how do I do that? Well, that's where I want to create this custom filter. I can create the custom filter by selecting custom filters, click the add custom filter, and then I can click add a field. And then it's going to say, well, what's the section that has the question that I want to filter on? So in this one, it's the interest area. So I'm going to go to project description. And then under project description, what's the field? So the field that asks the question of their interest area that I want to filter on is going to be, let's see, the proposal investment area. Okay, so that's the section that it's in. This is the question. I'm going to hit save and exit. So as soon as I do that, this pops up down here. It says proposal investment area. That's the question equals. If I say all and I hit display applicants, I get 36 applicants because I'm not filtering anything. However, if I just want the ones that are education, I can say education K through 12 display applicants. Now you can see it went down to 12. Then I could do those assignments, and then I can come up here, and then I have this other education question. I can click on that one, display applicants, and then there's only one more that fell under that category and assign that one for this education review. So I'm going to go ahead and just get the education K through 12. And when I hit the display applicants, what the system is doing is looking at this task, and it's looking at the task and saying, she wants to see only the unassigned applicants. So, have any of these 12 applicants been assigned to this task yet? If they have not been assigned to any reviewers in this task, then they're going to be in the unassigned. If I go to assigned, it's going to change it and it's going to say nobody's been assigned. And then if I put all, it's going to give me assigned and unassigned. And the reason it does this is because maybe you're doing one applicant at a time, and once they've been assigned, you don't want them showing up in this list. So let's say I have this show applicants by, I say unassigned, I have 12 applicants. So but in order to assign somebody, though, I do have to select the committee over here. What's the committee that's going to be doing this task to review these applicants? That's going to be my education committee. There's my education review committee. And then these are my members. So I have 12 applicants. I want to do an assignment. Now, what's nice is before you get started, this applicant assignment worksheet, this will give you a worksheet that gives you all of the assignment listing of applicants who have not been assigned if you get lost. So you can click on this, download this to Excel, even before you start doing anything, download this to Excel, and then you can see that, and then maybe do something on the outside, kind of look at it, make your determination, then come back here and do your assignments. It's just a nice little worksheet that you have. It's nothing you can upload into the system, but it will give you a listing of all the applicants that have not yet been assigned using the parameters that you've set here. So I'm just going to assign one. So you can just, I have 12 right now. I have the 4-H club organization. I'm going to assign them to 3 reviewers. So I'm coming over here and selecting the 3 I want. So that is a manual selection. Now I could do a random selection where I say over here, let me clear these. I say over here, a random selection, give me 1 applicant randomly. And then over here, random selection, give me 3 reviewers. and then the system will pick it. And you'll notice every time I hit go, it's going to change the 3. So that's a random. If I want to do all the applicants, I want the reviewers to review every single one of them, then I can just select all and select all. Everybody over here is going to get everybody over here. So I have 12, and then I have 5 reviews, so that's 5 times 12. I'm going to have a listing of all of those reviews here at the bottom. But in my case today, because I want to show you how it starts dropping applicants off, I'm going to put this to none. I'm just going to say 4H and then 3 reviewers, and then hit Save Assignments. And then once you hit the Save Assignments, of course, it's going to start putting those assignments at the bottom of the page here. And so here are those assignments here at the bottom of the page. And then I can see what I've done. Okay, so I can see the 4H review has had its review, and then I can move forward with the other ones here. So now, remember I had a list of 12. Let me put this back here. Now, if I say display applicants unassigned, I only have 11. So that I would go through and I would start eliminating all of these reviews until I got down to 0, and then I would know everybody has been accounted for. Now, something that I see some of our clients do is I'm doing all my reviews. I have my education review, I have my arts and council. So I'm done with my education review. I've created my review. Well, what some tend to do is they forget. They come here, they change health review. They come here, they change the committee to health committee, and they display applicants. But what they've maybe forgot to do, because remember, now see how that number went to 12? Because I've changed the task. What they forget to do is they forget, oh, I got to go in and do the filter. They don't remember to do the filter for the new functionality. So if I go health, display applicants, now I'm only getting the ones that fall under that health category, and it'll just give me those applicants. So that's how you can do reviews. So the next thing then is once your reviews are done, you want to notify reviewers. But let's say you notify your reviewer and they come back and say, oh, you know what, I have a conflict of interest. I can't do this specific applicant. What do you do? Well, it's very easy. I don't know why it's not taking me back to where I want to go here. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So let's say Beverly says that she can't do the 4-H club review. So what am I going to do? Or the reviewer, Susan, I should say, can't do the 4-H because she's part of the 4-H program. So I need to remove her. So how do I remove a review? So one, make sure Susan hasn't done any reviews, because those scores would have to be removed first. But I want to come here. I just select that name of the one I want to remove, and then I hit remove assignment. And then hit yes. And then now Susan no longer has that assignment. It's that simple. You just come here and you can remove them. So now I'm ready to notify my reviewers. So in notifying your reviewers, how do you do that? So there's a couple different places, little helpful areas we have that you can send notifications to your reviewers. The first one is from this review screen. You're going to notify, see over here a button that says notify reviewers. And over here, I have a listing of the reviewers here. And so I can select each one. And so make sure you're looking at the reviewer. And when you're over here on the reviewer, then if I hit notify reviewers, it'll send the review to those that I've selected. So you'll see right here, here's the 2 names that I've selected. Now, this template that opens up, you're going to notice the fields only say applicant. But this isn't an email addressed to an applicant. It's an email addressed to a reviewer. So how do I get those fields? There's a template we have out there. If you go here to email templates, and you'll see this one right here, committee applications are ready for review. That template gives you the reviewer first name and the reviewer last name merge fields. So that's the template one for doing your reviews. We recommend you go into the notification center, go to that template, make that your key template that you're going to send to all of your reviewers. And then that way they have this, so when you come here, you'll have it pre-made, and then all you have to do is select your reviewers and then hit either to schedule it or to send it, and then it'll send it out to them. So that's how, but in order to get an email address to them, you need to make sure you pick this template. This is the only template that has those merge fields available in it. And then once you have it and you've created it, then you can just come here and do that. Now that's to send individual emails to them. Now you also can go back into the Manage Committees. And here under Manage Committees, you're going to notice a Notify button. And so maybe I want to just send a quick message to everyone on a committee. So I can select Health Committee. I can come up over here, hit Notify. And then here, this first name, last name is looking at the first name, last name of the individual that is in that committee. It's going off of their email information. It's going off of the user account that was created on this from that specific user for this specific process. So it's going to say first name, last name. It's going to be the first name, last name of the user account. And then I can just type the body of the message. Hey, everyone, just wanted to let you know the reviews are ready for you to go. Please go in and start doing your review, and I can hit send. So that's another way. If you want to do a bulk message to all of those reviewers on the same committee, then you can do it that way. Unfortunately, there's not a template available, but it's just a nice little email that you can send that will send it to everyone based on their email of everyone in that specific committee that you selected. So that's how you can notify committee members. That's the two areas that are key in notifying committee members. And then the final thing we want to talk about today is creating automated scoring. Sorry about that. So creating automated scoring. So what is automated scoring? So automated scoring is a means to have the system look at a specific question, and it looks at that question, and usually those questions are drop downs, multiple choice, numeric, something to that extent, where it's a forced answer that they're maybe check boxes. You're giving them an answer, and then based on the reply, the system will put a score on that. So for scholarships, maybe GPA. If you have a GPA between 4 and 5, you're going to get a score of 10. If you have a GPA between 2 and 3, you get a score of 5, and then anything below that, you get a 0. That's one way that you can use it. It's an automatic thing that the system picks up, looks at the question. How did the applicant answer the question? Let's score them this way. On numeric fields, you can do greater than, less than, equal to, and then have it based on what they answered, give it a score based on that question. So let's go to the site so you can see how to set those up. Okay, and go to Manage Automated Scoring. So we're in the evaluations. We want from the application, then we chose evaluations, and right here, Manage Automated Scoring, the second one here in the dropdown. So this one, of course, every application form has a fund source tied to it. So it does want to know the funding source that's going to be funding this application form, because you can enter scores, which on the one-to-many, you can actually, we'll talk about this in our next training for the one-to-many, but you can create a score for each individual fund or scholarship that is being, each one can have its own scoring rubric for automated scoring. So in this one, this is a grant site. I only have the one application. And so what I want to build a score on is the operating budget. So if it's within a certain range, I want to give them a specific score. They get an extra 25 points because their operating budget is within a certain range. So maybe the lower the budget that they have, then the higher score they have. In this scenario, it looks like it's going the opposite direction, but that might be what you might want to do. Maybe that way, then the system, I can quickly give them a little extra score, a boost, so that they move to the top or get a higher percentage or something like that. So that's what you could maybe use this for. Now, automated scoring is separate from the scoring in the task cards. They're not combined, but there is a way that you can see those scores. When you're in the awards, you can actually see the automated score and the task card scores side by side. So, but there's nothing that adds them together and gives you a grand total. You have to do that adding manually. So how do you create one? Well, maybe I have, so it has to be, if you're doing a separate score for each value, so this is, you can see here, it's the exact same question for all of these, but it's different scores. So I can clone a score that I already have by coming here. I can just duplicate this one. So this one is, let's see, 50,000 to 75,000. They get 20 points. So maybe I want to do 80,000 to 100,000, we'll say. I can duplicate that. I hit the duplicate, and then I can say this is the number field, and I can change, okay, what's my minimum value? So let's do 80,000 to the maximum of 100,000. I need one more there. I want to give them a score of, let's go down here. Let's just do a 2. So you can just see, okay, there's a 2. Hit save and exit. So, and then you just do that, and then that's there. So you would do that for every value that you want to create a separate score for. Now, maybe I want to pick a different question. I want to add a scoring for something else. I can come over here, hit create, and then just start clean. So what's the section? I just got to tell the system what's the section that the question's in. Let's go to project description, and then what's the question? Let's just select this one, and then the condition, this was a yes no question, and then I can say conditions yes, and then if they say yes, then they get a score of 30, and then hit save and exit, and there's that score. It's that simple. If there was something that was a specific value, a drop down, then I could say if they answered this question this way, then give them a score of X, Y, and Z, or of 20 or 5 or 10. You can pick whatever you want, and then that's the score it's going to pick. If I decide, you know what, this cloned the ones from last year, I don't want a specific score for this year, or I created one and I don't want this one, then you can just come in here and whoops, let me just go out here. It was there earlier today. Now where'd it go? Okay, so right here, you'll see there's a trash can, and then I can just select the trash can, and then that will remove it. Same with this one. If I didn't want this one, hit the trash can, hit yes, and there, it's gone. So that's how you can add and remove automated scoring. So that is all that I have. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Maureen, and you can answer any final questions.
Sure, Christine. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions. Can automatic emails be sent to reviewers upon submission? Unfortunately, no, that is not the case currently. Automatic emails are not sent out to reviewers even after you've made the assignments. You'll have to manually send emails. However, we'll talk to a development team, we'll forward the feedback that we receive from our webinars and see if something like this, this sort of a feature can come into our future versions or upgrades, okay? Okay, can I assign applicants filter the applicants as per the fund? Yes, you can. The thing is, we are currently doing the one-to-one application process. We will have another session to cover the one-to-many application process for the setup of evaluation process in the future. We'll cover these topics, okay? Along with filtering the applicants during assignments as per the fund as well. Okay, so we'll cover these topics in the future. And just a second. So that question I have covered. Oh, one more question. I will cover this question and then we'll close the session, I think. Automated scoring did not carry over when the application was cloned. Like ideally, yes, you would want the scoring to come over. You have to make sure that the scoring has been enabled on the fund. So that will not come through. When we create a new fund and clone the application and associate that application to the new fund, the automated scoring will not come through. You'll have to create a new automated scoring per fund every year. Okay. The rest of the questions are part of the management of the evaluation process, which I have respectfully answered in the Q&A boxes. But Christine, I think we can close the session. I'll get back to the attendees who I've promised to get back through email. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Maureen. And so that does bring us to a close of today's session. Again, make sure you get a copy of the handout so that you can get to the resources section here. The resources section will take you to the user guides and videos that we have on our help desk that actually go into more details on how to do some of the functionalities that we didn't, of course, have time to cover every detail. So we just do a basic overview, but to get more information on how to do some of the functionality, those click here's will take you directly to those links in the user guides. So again, we want to thank everyone. Again, if you're interested in that dual role type or any of the processes that we talked about today, if any of those affect your processes and something you're maybe interested in, always feel free to enter a support ticket on Zendesk and request a meeting with a client support specialist to go over your processes, and they would be happy to answer any questions you may have in regards to your functionality and whether something is beneficial for you or not. So thank you all again, and we hope you have a wonderful week. And of course, the next session, this was the one-to-one. So we're going to be doing, the next one will be on managing our applicants, setting up the review process for the one-to-many. That's when you have one application with multiple funding sources. So how to set up that review process we'll talk about. So everyone enjoy your week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care.